Many people are buying faulty cars without knowing because they don't do proper test drive of the cars before buying. Sometimes pre-purchase inspection doesn't reveal hidden problems because some of the mechanical problems in a car only show up when you're driving the car in specific environments or conditions. That's why in this video we are going to talk about how to do a proper test drive of a car before buying it. Now you have gotten a vehicle and you want to buy. Assuming you have done pre-purchase inspection with a mechanic or any other person, and you want to do this, what you want to do is to take the car out on the road for a test drive. Personally, I recommend doing a test drive for at least 20 kilometers. Within these 20 kilometers of test driving, you are doing highway speeds and city driving. Highway speeds is when you're driving on a highway, for example, Southern Bypass or the Nairobi Expressway. Or city driving is when you're driving through towns at the speed of driving through towns. Now, these are the major elements you need to check when you're test driving the vehicle. Number one is the behavior of the engine. Number two is the behavior of the gearbox transmission. And then the functionality of the safety equipment. And then the brake tests and the suspension system. Talking about the behavior of the engine, you first start the engine and make visual observations of the engine when it is idle. By doing this, you are checking if the engine is running well. Also, you're looking at the RPMs of the engine when it is idle to make sure they are within the required band. You also want to check the emissions of the exhaust. You see any abnormal exhaust gases from the exhaust system, you know there's a problem. For example, black smoke from the exhaust pipes is an indication that there's a problem. You also want to rev the car and observe how the engine sounds. Any rattles, abnormal sounds, and RPM misbehaviors could be an indicator of a problem. If the engine is okay, you want to take the car out on the road. You get into the car and then you make sure you get into your most comfortable driving position. Adjust kitty, adjust mirrors, and you adjust the steering wheel to make sure that you are in the most comfortable driving position. And also you need to make sure you can access all the controls on the dashboard without struggling. And then you hit the road. While doing the test drive, you want to check on the following things. Number one, the RPMs and the rev matching of the gearbox transmission. Does the RPM match with the speed you are driving it? It will be absurd for you to be driving at 30 kilometers per hour, but the engine is doing RPMs of around 3,000 or 4,000 revolutions per minute. Also, does the RPM match with the speed or the gears you are in? Depending on the fuel your engine uses and the type of transmission you are using, the RPMs vis-a-vis gears you are in needs to make sense. The behavior of the transmission. You need to observe the behavior of the gearbox transmission. This will mostly depend on the type of gearbox you're using. You want to observe if it is smooth or is it rough or is it jerky, and how fast is it to shift from one gear to another. And then you need to do an acceleration test. An acceleration test, you can do it in three phases. The first phase is doing a 0 to 60 kilometers per hour. And then another one is doing 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. Another one is doing a rolling acceleration or rolling race from around 30 kilometers per hour to 100 kilometers per hour. While doing this acceleration, you want to make sure you are on a safe road that you can do the acceleration test without obstructing or posing any danger to other road users. Why is this acceleration test important? It is important because it gives you vital information which is useful in situations where you want to overtake vehicles when you are driving. It also gives you a feel of the amount of power the engine puts down on the wheels so that you can know how to handle the car depending on the situations you find yourself in. Another aspect of test driving is deceleration. Again, you want to make sure you are on a road that is safe enough to do this. First of all, you do a deceleration of 60 kilometers per hour to 0 by applying a constant pressure on the brakes. Also, do apply emergency brakes at safe speeds. This is to test the capability of the brakes you're using, if they're in good conditions and if the ABS is working. The ABS is a very important safety feature and you want to make sure that it is working. However, please don't test the airbags. Usigongesha gari ya wenyewe before you even buy it. Even when you buy it, you don't want to test the airbags anyway. Coming to the suspension system, to test the suspension system, you drive over speed bumps at a safe speed and observe how the suspension reacts to the bumps. You also drive over small potholes and have a feel of the reaction of the suspension system to the potholes. Also, you have to steer the car left and right and have a feel of the body roll of the car. By doing this, you're also checking how the suspension is handling the shift in the weight of the car as you steer from one side to another. It is important to also observe any form of noise from the suspension system or anything connected to it. Now, when test driving the car, always look out for any and every negative thing that comes out. This is important because if it is a small issue, you can use it to gain some bargaining power when negotiating for the price of the vehicle. Other things you need to check out while on the test drive is driver assist features such as lane departure, adaptive cruise control, parking sensors, and other similar features. You can also test the infotainment system. You can play some music and compare it to the amount of road noise and wind noise coming into the car. You also want to fiddle around with the infotainment system and check out its features. You can also check the AC, the heated, cooled seats if you have them in your car. You also need to check if the sunroof is working, if you have sunroofs, if the mlango ya boot is working, if it is electronic, automatic or electronic or ya prop ya chuma. You want to check if it is not making any noise when you are opening or closing it. You also want to check the doors, how they are closing or how they are opening, and if they are making any squeaking noise which kama hizo. So these are small issues that you need to check when you're doing a test drive. The importance of this test drive is it gives you enough information and convincing power whether you can buy this car or not. If the issues coming out are small, you use them as a bargaining power to negotiate on the price of the vehicle.